As you
recombinations, and a lot of classes are going to be able to be anything. And I told you guys, druids, for one, I think would not be spread out beyond what they currently are, because you got to make all new druid forms and everything. It's much more complicated. And I remember telling you guys, druids, demon hunters, and who else? Maybe not paladins would be spread out across. Also shamans, probably. Like, there's just some classes that are a bit harder to spread out. You can turn anyone into a mage. Any race can be a mage. That'll be easy. Any race can be a rogue. That'll be easy. But druids taking a substantial amount of work, because you got to make new druid forms for all of them. But supposedly Doran now believes that undead druids are coming. Undead druids. So I'm going to check this out. Well, Doran's been known to stretch the truth a little bit, so we'll see if that's true. But let's see what Doran has to say about undead druids coming into Dragonflight here. Let me make sure we're at 1080. We are at 360. Jesus. All right, there we go.
As you may know, druids are all about creating life, healing,
We're still
literally
filling up
the
group here
exact
for,
opposite
except
of
for
what
the
we
first
know
ones.
as the undead. However, Blizzard recently confirmed that they plan to eventually remove all the race class restrictions, which means at some point in time the undead druids will be coming out, which out of pretty much all the race class combos seems to be the most unholy and almost simply impossible to actually introduce and explain. So who really could be the undead druids, and can the lore somehow be bent for them to make sense? What do they have to do to make this possible? Opera GX is the Opera browser, but for gamers available on your PC and mobile as GX Mobile, and best of all, both of these can actually be connected. One of the coolest features of the browser is the GX control, where you can keep a bunch of tabs open but not hurt your gaming performance, allowing you to limit CPU.
And I have to say, I do feel like people are waiting for Season 4. There is an extreme lull in the time it has taken to fill up a group. I mean, this shit was happening before in like 10-15 minutes. Now it's like, man, oh my god. Yeah, I think a lot of people have taken a break.
RAM and bandwidth. Even cooler is that despite Opera having its own extension store, Google Chrome extensions are also compatible, and you can pretty much install any extension you want. So join the millions of gamers and download Opera GX with my link in the description below. So originally, druids were almost exclusively a Night Elven thing. They were kind of introduced in Warcraft 3, and there was an entire order of them. They were pretty much always connected to this mysterious Emerald Dream, and they would essentially just spend all the time there.
I mean, shit, the first cinematic for World of Warcraft ever had a Night Elf druid in it. You guys remember that? Sexy asshole. She picks up the dagger and then she starts running through and transforms into a cat.
And they would really spend more time than they would in the material plane. However, this was not your average sleepless slumber. It is literally like they teleported their soul to the dream and just help out nature, serving inside. Now, this lore, as most of Warcraft lore, has really gotten a lot more vague over the years, and we really don't even know what the current consensus is. This is more vague over the years, and we really don't even a lot.
Let me try to show it again.
Warcraft lore has.
Yeah, this is before the sexual harassment allegations, back when Tig old biddies were a big part of World of Warcraft.
Really gotten a lot more vague over the years, and we really don't even know what the current consensus is. This is, of course, for two reasons. One is the fact that I don't think even Blizzard really knows what even is the Emerald Dream anymore, and they just keep constantly changing the lore. And the second is the entire Shadowlands ordeal that heavily impacted it. When we learned about Ardenweald, the Winter Queen, and this new vague Elune lore, that really changed everything from the core. As you know, maybe the Emerald Dream isn't even all that important. It is now all about Ardenweald. The dream just now kinda seems like something going in between. So, longer the days when you had to play with Tyrande.
In original vanilla WoW, the Emerald Dream was supposed to be as like the purest form of Azeroth. Like, you were supposed to be able to look into the Emerald Dream, and that is what Azeroth would have looked like had, you know, no corruption happen, no curse of flesh, nothing. Just completely untouched Azeroth. That was what the Emerald Dream was supposed to be. Now it's just, I I'm not really sure what it is anymore.
Awakened the slumbering
something
druids,
different.
and now we will soon be reaching a point where we will be having forsaken druids, which is really just going to be a crazy and just unholy combination. So the druids themselves are one of the most limited classes in the game, and this is mainly due to them being available to those races whose cultures are based on druidism in a way. Generally, druidic cultures are quite different than those that are not.
I mean, druids make sense for Night Elf and Tauren. I'm not sure where the undead druids are going to come from.
Druidic, for example, the difference between the goblins and the Tauren. So right now you only really have the
Kultiran
Night
were always a bit questionable for druids for me. Zandalari trolls make sense, yeah, in touch with nature and all that. Kultiran, I'm not sure. Maybe the sea, because of the sea. But I guess they had their own shit going on with that whole witchcraft stuff, and that was why they can do druidism.
Tauren, trolls, Vorgen, and most recently the Kultirans, and many of those are actually quite different. As I mentioned in multiple videos, the classes in the game are completely different from those in the lore, so a Night Elven Druid is not the same as a Vorgen, Troll, or a Kultiran one. However, where the problem comes with undead druids being available is what druids actually do and what is their role. Here's the thing, realistically, since we now have a bunch of playable and allied races, there are barely any barriers to make any race become pretty much any class, because all of it is just so intertwined at this point. The factions are together as well, and now they just spend so much time together that really any race can learn anything. While an Orc Paladin sounds kinda unholy,
yeah, the Orc Paladin,
he could have spent time with the Army of the Light and
yeah, he could have been freaking forced to become a paladin.
Then Warlocks, as unholy as that is, they could have spent time with people on Azeroth, learn the way to use spell without corrupting themselves, so they could have adapted it. That is the way that could really be explained. However, the undead druids are really just a completely different animal. Their literal physical state is the exact opposite to what the druids. So like literally when you look at the cosmological chart, they're on the complete opposite of the spectrum. Druids are literally life itself. Like if life could be a class, they would be druids, while the Forsaken are on the death part of the chart, and you know, they're obviously undead. It just seems completely impossible.
Man, I want to play Alpha so bad. Yeah, don't we all?
A fire elemental to cast water, or like a void lord to use the light. It just kind of seems just logically impossible.
Yeah, no,
druids create life, they sprout forests, and while they can attack and defend, generally
Phase 2 of Alpha
they
started
are focused
yesterday.
on healing.
So
Druids
check
were
out
really
people playing for
adapted
sure.
in World of Warcraft to be a combat class, but culture-wise, druids
The
are
Directhier starting zone now.
more like pillars of society, keeping the balance of the nature and healing, not really fighting. The undead, on the other hand, are, well, dead, first of all, and second, a complete opposite energy to the druids. How could an undead sprout life when he himself is not even alive? I mean, undead have blight everywhere. Imagine just like undead sprouting forests and caring about animals and, you know, not like eating them and just turning their body parts into abominations. It just kind of seems like such an outlandish concept with the currently established lore. When you look at the old lore, the Forsaken literally joined the Horde under the guise that they wanted to find a cure for themselves, mainly through druidism, so that they could return to their normal selves, and now they will be becoming druids. It is like the lore has gone full circle. Well, without complaining, let us look at what mental gymnastics Blizzard is going to have to go through, because this is just one combination where they're going to have to become Olympic champions for this to make sense. The first part of the puzzle is the most recent 9.2.5 lore with Kalia Manatil, and not really the restoration of Lordaeron and all that stuff, but the other part where she visited Moldraxxus and learned about how she was created and what is the source of cinematic,
by the way. I like this
cutscene. Unbeknownst to many, actually changed everything we once knew about Undeath, and it has kind of gone under the radar. Undeath is apparently not a curse as we used to believe, but it is literally just a state, and it can be induced with any other cosmological force. For example, almost all the Forsaken were created by death magic through the Drill's influence, but some were created differently. I mean, some undead. We've had Metal Fellstorm, there was an Arcane Undead, and he has nothing to do with Forsaken.
Undead.
And we have Kalia Manatil, that is light undead. I'm guessing by this exact logic, we could have an order of life undead. As crazy as that sounds, as contradictory as that is, I'm not sure how this can really be explained. However,
I mean, it's pretty obvious that all their druidic forms are going to be, you know, skeletal and and decaying and all that shit. So they probably look really cool. But if this is really true, we are going to start to see some undead druidic forms soon.
There is some potential, maybe with Ardenweald and this really vague connection there is to the Emerald Dream and the Azeroth's material plane. As you may know, there was this entire storyline of the Night Elven souls first being sent to the Shadowlands by Lune, meaning she has some influence here, then going to the Maw, then being recovered, and then sacrificing themselves to create this seed made by the Winter Queen, as you may have seen in the new cinematic, which almost certainly will be explained in Dragonflight. This really is nothing new. We've known this since the Azeroth videos, that important creatures go to Ardenweald, absorb anima in these pods, and regenerate, and return back to Azeroth or whatever their planet of origin is, meaning Ardenweald really is connected to all the forests and nature of various planets, meaning there is a hard connection between death and life. This little leeway here could be where the undead druids could come in. Not sure how exactly, but it seems like the only possible solution where they could make at least a little bit of sense. I could see two possible scenarios, either the regular Forsaken being druids or a new order being created. For example, as the regular Forsaken were created by death magic through the influence of the Shadowlands, they could use this inherent death magic connection with Ardenweald and somehow work on creating life despite not being able to turn themselves into creatures of life, which I gotta say would be kind of a hard to explain scenario. Or they could create a new customization for the undead, as we already have Lightbound undead, at least in the lore. We could have life undead, as crazy as that sounds. Think of it something as druids from Ardenweald, which are technically not alive as they originate in Ardenweald and they're sort of undead, but they are able to wield the powers of life,
I guess Ardenweald makes it a little bit more
definitely a bit of a crazy concept, but out of all the scenarios, this one could make the most amount of sense. The only issue is that it would require a lot of work and endgame work from Blizzard, as they would really need to essentially create a brand new race, but they would need to introduce them as a brand new concept. While this in itself wouldn't really be all that hard, the issue is if these undead druids happen after Dragonflight, I'm not sure how relevant Shadowlands is really going to be for Blizzard to go through this entire process. However, that really is like my full extent of mental gymnastics I could use to make this concept make sense, but even this explanation to me doesn't really sound all that realistic, so Blizzard is really going to have to go over some big hurdles if they want to introduce Forsaken druids. Thank you for watching. Check out his Blizzard Alliance bias by clicking on the screen and check out our